right, everybody, welcome back. I'm here with Parker Nash. Guys, we had a great conversation before this. He got me talking. My ADHD kicked in. It was a good time. 30 minutes of good time. So you all know this. We have great conversations. I think I need to start a second show where I just record the first 30 minutes of every conversation. That becomes like its own show behind the scenes. I might do that for all of you. But then people can't share their numbers and stuff with me, and I really like to see that. But anyway, so good stuff. Parker, so stoked to have you on here, man. Very excited to deep dive into marketing, branding. So as you guys kind of heard in the intro, Parker worked with Nike for many, many years, has, obviously worked with multi-billion-dollar brands. And the headline that he and his team sent me, I thought was so awesome, of like what we could talk about today, which was how to build like a billion-dollar brand without spending $1 billion, which I thought was so awesome, because you all know this. We talk about this a lot on this show of it takes money to make money, but it doesn't take a whole lot of money, right? So Parker, first off, super stoked to have you here, man. Say what's up to everybody, and we'll hop in here.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for having me. Yeah, glad to be here. This is fun.
It'll be a blast. I am excited to pick your brain, because we've had some good banter back and forth. So I want to ask you, first and foremost, you jumped into Nike. You worked with them for many, many years. What made you take the risk to jump out and say, okay, you know what? I'm good enough at this. I could have my own company doing this.
Good question.
Did you get fired, I guess, is the first question. Did they kick you out?
Yeah, okay. No, I did not get fired. But the further I get away from Nike, the more not Nike, but like just realize I'm like, yeah, I'm not really employable. I think it was good. I left. It's because I love what I do so much now. But not that I didn't enjoy what I was doing there. But what it came down to is, so the time I had at Nike was amazing, because truly got one of the best, hands-on education that you could ever get, being in that environment.
Right.
Constantly surrounded by the world's greatest marketers, branders, designers, product creators. It's just a mastermind community day in, day out of these types of folks that are brilliant at this space. And so just the ability to learn from that was incredible. And the stuff I was working on, what was really neat about it was the stuff we worked on had the ability and the chances to impact millions of people across every corner of the world. So that was fantastic and amazing. But like anything, you get to a certain point and you just kind of get tired of, okay, I've kind of done this. I've seen what it's like. I think I'm ready for that next challenge. And kind of at the same time I was going through that, while it was fun to help all these, that business impact millions of people, what I started to realize was there was just so many really cool businesses and people out there and brands out there that I could tell had good products and services, but I could tell that were struggling because they weren't branding and marketing themselves the right way, the way in which a Nike does it too. And I was like, gosh, you know what? I think I can help these people, these businesses and these brands apply some of this knowledge and experience I've gotten from Nike and help them out with that. And that's kind of how it really started was, I've done it here at Nike, and I think I've seen some really cool people that could be doing better, and I want to go help them out a lot more.
Yeah. Well, and so Parker, this is what's so funny. I went and got my MBA while I was running my company. We were very successful, and everybody's going, "Why the heck did you get your MBA?" And it was because I was like, I think there's a major discrepancy in our generation right now, where it's kind of the us versus them, where it's like there's the college educated tech startup guys, and then you have the bootstrapped entrepreneur guys. But truthfully, it's like, I feel like a lot of times, being one of the companies that was bootstrapped, we've bootstrapped multiple companies at this point. I can tell you that some of the main principles that you learned at Nike, I learned through the MBA program, right, are the basics of, product, place, positioning, that kind of stuff is just unheard of in our sector, for coaches and agencies. And a lot of us are, as coaches and agencies, aren't applying these honestly just base foundational principles that if we applied those correctly, all of our marketing campaigns would be successful, which was kind of what I was getting from you from our initial conversation before this.
Yeah, 100% too. And that's kind of what I started to realize and notice too, was there's for a lot of people I work with, the businesses and brands I work with, they're experts in a certain field. I've worked with neuroscientists, engineers, coaches, consultants, whatever, startup companies, whatever. They're all experts in a certain field, or they have their expertise and they're brilliant at that. And that's why they've created a product, they've created a service, whatever it is. But marketing for most of them is not their field of expertise. And in that instance, there's just so much out there, information out there. And oftentimes I think a lot of marketers actually try to make it more complicated and seem more complicated than it really has to be. And that's where, like, man, we can actually simplify this a lot more. And it's a pretty simple process that we need to take if you want to actually improve and not just bang your head against the wall, throwing away money at marketing that doesn't do anything for you.
Right. Well, I'm going to throw this out there for all of you listening to this. This is really where Parker, you shine, right? And what I love about your offer is that it's a simple offer, but it's literally what will save them millions of dollars in trial and error, which, because I personally, we talked about this, I personally spent like $300,000 before I could make $100,000. Right. And I am not exaggerating. That was between buying courses and coaches and consultants and all this stuff. And I'm like, I wish somebody had just shown me, here are the basic functions of marketing. I thought I knew marketing. It was a marketing agency. It was my first company.
Yeah.
But just knowing those fundamentals, it was a game changer for me and honestly for our clients at the time. But
Right.
what's so intriguing to me about your methodology is saying, hey, let's square you up. It's a 90-day program so that you can, in 90 days, you can leave this A, with a great marketing plan in place, but B, knowing where every single dollar should be going, right? Which is, that's huge. That's absolutely huge.
Yeah, exactly. And and that's, we can get into this of what that looks like of, this comes from the spending time at Nike, and then not just Nike. Once you start to look outside of, I'm willing to bet probably any $1 billion brand that's as successful as they are, they're going through the same process. And this is really what we need to look at, is kind of demystifying that whole marketing process. And a lot of people want to go and they start talking about the things that are exciting, that are down at the end of the road. What platform, social media platform should I be on? Should I start a podcast? Podcasts are great, but there's a lot of stuff you want to know before that till you get to that point. Otherwise, you're just putting it out there and who's listening, right? And so this is where we really need to look at. And it really comes down to 3 major stages or phases that we need to go through. And if you look at Nike, this is what they're doing through those stages. The first stage is really the foundation. And that all is about customer and message clarity. Who is the customer that you want to attract, that ideal customer that you want to work with? And 2, what are the words you need to use to get their attention? That is where Nike and the Nikes of the world spend a good portion of their time, is right there. People want to think about and talk about, Nike and their brands, their billboard campaigns, these massive brand campaigns that they do. But it starts with customer and message clarity. So really dialing in, who is your ideal customer? What are the words you need to use to get their attention to engage with your brand? And
if I interrupt you here for just one second, Parker, because I just have to support your point here, because we've been in business in our company for 7-8 years now, I think. And literally just 2 weeks ago, Tyler, my brother, and I, who are partners, we spent an entire week while we were at an event reworking our language again. And and it's like an ever ongoing process. So I can absolutely support what you're saying. And as far as like that is the number one most important thing. And even in the last 2 weeks since we did that, our close rate went up because we were able to give better language to our people, and our marketing. So the amount of leads and outreach that we're doing is actually increasing because of just tweaks in language. Just absolutely crazy. So I interrupt you, but
no. That's great. We can jump into that for sure. And it's really important is, this is why brands like Nike become memorable, and why any of our brands can be memorable is because we have to really focus on, what are we going to say? What are we going to communicate to our customers to get them to pay attention? It's so noisy out there. There's so much stuff out there. So you got to really focus on cutting through. And so this is what I call creating a message guide, a message framework. because you want to be able to repeat the same thing over and over and over again, because consistency equal turns into being remembered. So if you're changing the way you're talking about your business, if you're changing the way what you say to your customers every time, like every time is a new experience when they come to you, you will not be remembered. And this is why repetition is so important. And it's why brands like Nike have, several decades ago decided that they came up with 3 words for their business: just do it. And they've just repeated it over and over and over again. And because it's synonymous with Nike now. But we need to do the same thing for our business too. So, for that, there's a couple things, really, if you just want to break it down super simply, how can you actually talk about your business the right way? First and foremost, figure out what is the one big outcome that your customers really want as it relates to your product or service. And this is really important. It's not the 3 outcomes, the 5 things, the 10 things. It's the one thing. What do they want as it relates to your product or service? And oftentimes, this is where it takes some listening and some reflection on, what are my customers saying to me? The best marketing, by the way, is just saying what your customers are saying back to them, right? They're telling you all this information. You just put it back in the words that they're using. And they're like, yeah, how'd you know that? It's like, well, because you're telling me it, right? So first and foremost, what's the one big outcome your customers want as it relates to your product or service? 2, why can't they get that? That's problem or pain. A lot of times we talk about, the problem that you solve, right? And that's really important, because if you don't solve a problem, if you don't talk about the problems that your customers have, well, there's no reason for you to exist. So if you're not reminding them of why they can't get that big outcome, they're not going to pay attention to you. That also allows you to position your offer, your product, your service as the solution to the problem, so that they can get the outcome that they want. Mm. So it's outcome, it's problem, and then the last thing's picture. You got to get them to be able to picture what life looks like after you work together. So on the positive end, what are the positive outcomes and benefits, successes they'll experience, but also what failures, what pains will they continue to experience if they don't act? This is actually one of the more important things, which is, for so many of us, we're not going up against competition of other businesses and that kind of stuff. We're actually going up against status quo bias of, it's not that bad. I could, the way I'm doing it right now is fine. That just, I'll just get along with how I'm doing it now. We have to overcome that. And the way you do that is to actually help them realize, hey, this is the consequence of not moving forward with us, but don't worry, we're here to help you. We can help you get to that other side there. We can help you achieve that big outcome. So that's kind of like what you're saying about the whole messaging thing is so important, is because once you nail those pieces down, well, then this is what needs to be showing up and being communicated at every touch point that you have with your customers, on your website, when you're on sales calls, in your social media, in your podcast, whatever it is, right? We're talking about the same things over and over and over again. So you get remembered for that one thing.
Yeah. Which is, man, that's brilliant. Yeah. I'm going to go run our words. Oh my gosh. Brain fart. I'm going to go run our messaging through that, because that's awesome. I would hope all of you listening to this will do the same thing. If you're driving, please do not do this while you're driving. But if you're just listening to this, pull out a pen and pencil and oh my gosh, I say that every time. Pen and paper. It's been a day, guys. I love you all. Thank you for putting up with my blunders. But put out a pen and paper and ask yourself those 3 questions, right? So what's the one outcome they want?
Yep.
Why can't they currently get it? So is that kind of like, why can't they get it without you? Yes.
Yep.
Why can't they get it
without you? What's holding them back? Yeah, exactly. What's holding them back? What's keeping them from getting that? Yeah. And when you really hit the nail on the head on the problem too, that is that gut punch of like, oh, dang. And here's what also does too, is now it's actually building a bond with your potential customers or clients, because they're like, man, this guy, this gal, this brand, they get me. They understand me. And that's what Nike does so well, is they're so sharp at communicating who they want to work with and what they're feeling. They're inside people's heads all the time. And that's why they build such a kind of unbreakable bond with their customers. So yeah. What's the big outcome? What's the problem? And then what's the picture? What does life look like after they work with you? Paint that picture for them. Because if they don't see, they can't imagine what it's going to look like, what they're going to get, what they're going to avoid, they're not going to move forward.
Yeah. Well, I That's what I was yesterday. I was actually out pants shopping of all things. I don't like shopping. You all know this about me. I'm a t-shirt and jeans kind of guy. But my wife was busy, didn't want to buy me
Yeah.
clothes. So I said, hey, I'm going to go out and get a couple pairs of pants because I'm fat and
Yeah.
I ripped my jeans. So I went and looked for a pair of joggers, and it was really funny. I had this total epiphany. I'm like, how brilliant is the Just Do It brand? Because you're looking at something trying to buy it and they're like, just buy it, just do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the most brilliant freaking tactic. I'm gonna start putting that on all my products. Like, you're an idiot if you don't buy this. You're an idiot if you don't buy this.
Yeah.
And guess what? I bought a Nike
Yeah.
product yesterday.
Well,
right?
it's super memorable. They repeat it over and over again, and then it's a call to action. It's an inspiring call to action, right? No matter how it applies to you in your life. Yeah. That's why Nike. I mean, that's what Nike's so great about is that they inspire people to act, right? So just do it. So so for sure. So that's really kind of stage one. There is you got to figure out customer message clarity. Again, where I see this a lot of times is businesses wasting time and money is they're bypassing this because they believe, well, everybody could use my product or service. So hold on, if this is where it comes in, if you're the friend to everyone is a friend to no one. So Nike's also really specific on who they want to attract, but at the same time, who they do not want to attract. If they don't, you want to be on the other ends. If you get in the middle, you're vanilla. No one cares. You're not building a bond. You're missing opportunity to build a stronger bond with your customers. Yeah. So that's why they focus so much on that is customer message clarity. And again, this is where a lot of businesses skip that because they get to the sexy, cool things of logos, social media, whatever, but that's down the road. Yeah. The next thing we need to do then is, all right, what are your key attraction assets? What are the key assets, marketing collateral assets you need to engage your customers? I think for most of us, it's a couple things. It's a sharp website that actually communicates what we talk about stage one, the customer and message, who you want to attract, what they're going to get from working with you. So you have that really clear message. That's where all that messaging and customer clarity needs to show up is your website. But then you also need, I think, a great lead magnet, some resource you can provide in exchange for customer information so you can build a relationship with them, nurture them. It's what we call a lead magnet. Yeah. Tons of different ways you can do this. It can be like a downloadable resource. It can be a free strategy call, whatever it is, right? There's so many different ways you can execute that. The point, though, is most people aren't ready to buy. And so if you don't give them an opportunity to engage with your brand, they're going to go away. They're going to forget about you. So have a good lead magnet and then have a good follow-up email series sequence that really reinforces how you can help them, builds that relationship, that trust with them, so that when they are finally ready to address the problem that's holding them back, you're top of mind for them. So I think those three things are really kind of the big things we want to have in terms of our key marketing assets to have. Fantastic to use. Don't have to overthink it. So a good website, good lead magnet, good email intro series, you're set there.
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt you again here, Parker, because that was awesome. I'm going to interrupt you though, and I'm going to say, guys, if you want to see this in action, go over to parkertnash.com. Okay, there's my solid plug for you guys. Okay, they have a really phenomenal page. It's go leverage something like this. Go look at what the masters are doing, like Parker, and replicate. If it's something that works for your brand, go check theirs out. So once again, it's parkertnash.com. They'll walk you guys through this in 90 days. Really, really awesome program. Go check it out. It's inexpensive. So
that's stage two then is making sure you have your key attraction assets. And then the last thing is none of that matters unless you put it out there and get people to know about you. I mean, this is where I see so much of the fallacy of if you're old enough to remember or you've gone in the archives, you've seen the movie Field of Dreams from the 80s with Kevin Costner. If you build it, they will come. Well, that is not the case with our products, our brands, our businesses, our services. If we just build the coolest product, especially high ticket, you will not just create it and people will just instinctively know it. So it's not if you build it, they will not come. So you have to give them a reason to come to your business. And most people I see is they want to jump to Facebook ads, paid ads, YouTube ads, all that stuff. That can be good. Fair warning, it doesn't work for every business and every platform doesn't work for every business. So you got to be really careful about that stuff. Two, you should only do paid ads if and when you know that your service, your product's dialed in, you have a process dialed in, you have a good sales process dialed in too. Because otherwise, if you're still figuring that out, it's just going to be like Swiss cheese, it's just or like the colander effect. You're just letting stuff trickle through the colander, and you're just wasting money and opportunities there. So
And I'm
paid
going to
ads
throw
should
this out
be,
there. I'm going to shamelessly
yeah,
plug myself here for a second is guys, if that's where you're struggling, that's where we help people. I mean, if you're
yep,
sitting here going, oh my gosh, I don't have a sales system that's actually converting. How am I supposed to use what Parker's telling me? We help with that, guys.
yes,
Can't tell enough,
yes.
man. Anyways,
And
carry on.
so the paid ads piece, once you have that, so if they're working with you and they get dialed in on their sales process and all that kind of stuff, finally the paid ads should be the last step of, yes, now we know this works and this is fuel to fire. But so many people want to jump to that and they just waste a ton of money because one, their process isn't dialed in. They don't know who specifically they want to attract. Their message isn't clear and specific and relevant. So it's a boondoggle. But the other things we can really do is, I think this is something people overlook a lot, which is, again, people want to go, all right, build content, create content, blah, blah, blah. Fantastic. Absolutely do that. Focus on the one or two places where you actually are good at it, great at it, and you don't need to be everywhere at all times. But the thing I think most of us overlook is what I call borrowing other people's audiences. This is a huge thing. And this is what Nikes of the world do all the time. What I mean by that is partnerships and collaborations. There are other brands, businesses, and people out there with non-competitive products and services that are already serving your ideal customers. So if you can find them and partner with them and collaborate with them, you get an immediate introduction to a base of customers that they have already done the really hard work of building trust and a following with, and going, hey, I met this guy, Josh. He's awesome. I think you should listen to him and see what he has to say. Yes.
I have
Let me
stamp of
introduce you
approval
to
from
him.
Parker, guys. I need to
Yeah. So when that happens, when I introduce people to you or vice versa, all the trust I've built with the people that know me and trust me, I extend over to you, Josh. And you just bypass that whole time frame that costs time and money of, who is this guy? What's he about? I don't know, but I'm vouching for you. It's as good as that direct one-to-one referral, but there's so many different ways we can do this. This can be, if you do this with other partners, it can be lead magnet swaps. It could be co-hosting training workshops together, co-hosting a webinar together. There's just so many different ways you can do that. And it can be monumentally impactful for your business. And again, this is like Nikes do this all the time. And here's an example of about 10 years ago, Nike sports brand wanted to and started really getting into more of the high-end fashion world. And they're like, oh, that's okay. I don't know. Interesting that they're moving into that. But, a lot of what they do is shoes and apparel and stuff. So they've been moving to this more premium space, high-end world. Right. So rather than just kind of trying to build it on their own and pay a bunch of money to get this, and right, what they do, well, they went and created collaborations with key designers in some of like the big fashion markets of the world, LA, New York, Milan, Paris, right? Like in these notable brands. And they created collaboration product collections with them through Nike. And when they did that, they knew, hey, this designer has all this trust and following amongst these avid fans of customers that they've built. We do too. When we come together, we're going to introduce each other to each other's brands, our customers, and we're going to cross-pollinate and co-market together. And we'll get access to people that we can help and serve faster than any other way we possibly could have before. So, and this is something brilliant brands of all sizes can do too.
Yeah. What I love, so I'm so glad you came on here, Parker, because we both run in the same vein here, but I genuinely believe in what you're saying when it comes to the OPA, other people's audiences first, right? I mean, that's such a brilliant strategy. The big brands do it, and other people are like, okay, well, I can't get in the door with the top designers. But truthfully, you don't need somebody who has 1 million people first. You want to go find somebody who has a really small list, because your offer might suck. Your website might suck. Yeah. Your offer might, and what's so fun, I mean, I just tell people this all the time, because a lot of our clients are like, okay, but where do I start? Like, do I need to build pages and do all this stuff? It's like, the first thing you do is you go ask somebody, hey, could you send one email to your list for me and I'll give you a cut? And if you'll ask that, pretty much anybody will do that who has a small list. Cause nobody's really asked me that before. Sure. Why not? And then 100%. If that one works, go to a live with them, go to a bigger offer with them or whatever, go find somebody else. If it doesn't work, tweak a couple things, move to the next person, right? It's
Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, this is kind of in all phases of life too, and all things. 100%. Don't. Yeah. If you try to go to the big dogs first, it's not going to work for you. You got to figure stuff out too. Same thing with something like this. Like if you want to do podcast guesting, don't go try to be on Tim Ferriss's podcast on podcast one. Not going to happen, right? One's not going to happen. Two, if you did, it just, unless you're just,
he's going to tear you to shreds because you're off.
Yeah. Right. You got to kind of bumble and stumble through a couple of things and figuring out, what am I saying? What am I talking about? How do I actually want to do this? Right. And kind of like, get a couple of lumps and figure it out, test it out a little bit, and you'll just dial it in further and further. But also too, you don't need a partner with 1 million people that follows them. If they know 10 people and 2 of them are good clients for you, that's a great payoff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It doesn't have to be this, I don't know. I just feel like with social media and all this kind of stuff, we just get so focused on the numbers, the follower counts and like that kind of stuff.
The exponential possibility. Yeah, I think it kills us. Yeah.
Yes. And we're like, no, actually great marketing is really personable. It's just being a great brand is just, you don't have to overthink those kinds of things.
Yeah. Well, can I just throw one thing out here too, Parker? Yep. I'm just kind of curious your take on it because, we've been talking Nike this whole time and big brands.
Yep.
And I find that people fall into 2 categories when they hear about this kind of stuff. And P.S. Parker, I'll wrap this up pretty quick. I know we're at time here. So
yeah, you're good.
What I can tell you guys is that there's 2 categories of people who they're going to look at this and go, okay, I'm just going to copy what Nike's doing. First off, if you're selling a coaching program, don't copy Nike. It's a completely different model, first off.
Right.
But then there's the other side who's like, well, I could never do what they could do. And it's like, no, you're being black or white. The truth is in the middle, there's this really great opportunity for you to mimic the strategies they're doing, like what you're teaching, Parker. So it's so awesome that you teach this, mimicking the strategies, but then tailoring them and scaling them down to small lists.
Right.
I have one guy, whenever I need a client, if we're looking for a high ticket client, he has this tiny list. He pretty much just kind of meets people through his podcast. It's a couple hundred people now, but when I first met him, it was 10 to 20 people that he had interviewed.
Okay.
But if I ask him to, he just goes back to anybody he's talked to in the last 30 days and says, hey, you want to buy Josh scrap? And they do. It's the craziest thing. And it's so It's so interesting. And guys, just for the sake of time here, I'm going to give one final shout out for Parker's program here, guys. It's a 90-day program. They're going to take you through this process at a much more finite level so that by the time you're done with it, you know exactly where to put your funds, you know exactly what your messaging is and how to actually scale up your own marketing plan. So go check it out. Once again, it's parkertnash.com. And they actually let me do this. Parker, you're a stud. If you add /call at the end, you can skip the line and just hop onto a call with him. I don't even have an affiliate link for this, guys. I'm failing today. So, but Parker, this has been amazing, but I want to ask you one final question to kind of wrap up this interview today.
Yeah.
You've given us a lot of really good steps people can take, but what's something they can do in 5 to 10 minutes that could give them a quick win today?
Quick win today, I would say this is, especially for your audience, your space, is what I call develop your proprietary process, a roadmap. This has been one of the biggest unlocks I've had for my business, which has led to the accelerator you just talked about. Once I started to realize, there's an experience, there's a skill set I've learned about how Nike markets themselves, and it's a step-by-step process. Once I developed that, I created a visual roadmap. People could see where I'm taking them, what steps they need to take to build out an effective marketing system. It was a total unlock because customers will not follow you if they can't visualize and see where you take them. People want to be told where to go. So if you can build out your process and say, hey, here are the stages or steps you need to take to achieve that outcome you have, and you show them that, one, it'll clarify, take all the confusion out of what the heck does this guy do? What do I need to buy? You know, what are they doing? But two, this becomes your unique differentiator. It's what you believe in terms of what are the processes, the steps we need to do that to engage with our brand. So think about this. What are these steps or the roadmap? What is the framework you can develop? What steps your customers and clients need to take in order to get the outcome that you can deliver for them? Develop that into a roadmap or a process or a framework, and it will be a total game changer for your business.